Hey guys, this is Lauren. So Chad and Alexandria, they already submitted their portion of the PowerPoint and they did go over mine. I just had surgery on Friday, so I was kind of down for the count all weekend. So we decided that it would be best if I just submit my own portion of the project and me presenting and going over it and then post it into the discussion video that was already uploaded. So I'm going to go over my slides, if that's okay. So for our project, we kind of did a case study on preventing, behavioral issues for all youth. We looked at, what kind of changes can be made as far as, the social welfare of our kids in this country. So my slides consist of the call to action for social workers. So what this is going to consist of is, social workers advocating for policy change and funding. It's going to be really important for programs that are designed to support at-risk youth development. It's important to create safe spaces for our youth to thrive. A lot of the times children that especially children that have underlying trauma as well as behavioral issues don't really feel safe. So it's important to create that for them in a loving environment, as well as partnerships within school. We all know kids go to school, so it's important that we advocate within the school system as well, to kind of integrate mental health, well-being, and wellness. So it's also going to be important for a community to really organize mentorship and support. It's important for children to have mentors that may have already gone through something similar in their childhood that can be there to kind of advocate for them. So hoping to develop programs that support this would be really, really special and really beneficial to our youth. We just need a lot of focus on overall mental health, children's education, and we need to help them kind of build social skills that can help them in the future. And like I said, it's extremely important to collaborate with schools for holistic student support. Moving on to my other slide. There are some thought-provoking questions to kind of help engage classmates. And I do apologize, this is a little bit late. I finally felt well enough. This is like my first day back at work. So I figured I would just go ahead and do it now. Sorry, side note. So some discussion questions for our classmates. The first one would be, how can social workers overcome systematic barriers to resources for healthy youth development? Students should also consider how structural factors like poverty, racial prejudice, and location affect youth development and how social work interventions might help overcome this. This is going to be really important and a bigger barrier to kind of come across and really implement some good ideas on how to cross them. What can social workers do to prioritize young voices and participation in development decisions? It's important that we can get the kids engaged as well, because if they're not engaged, then how are we gonna get them to where they need to be? And the last little bullet point on this slide is, this subject raises the question of how social workers might empower kids by incorporating them into decision-making processes that affect their life. Children, they're more childlike and they don't really know how to emotionally regulate like us as adults do. I mean, I still struggle myself as an adult to kind of emotionally regulate. So that can affect their decision-making processes. They can be more impulsive and not tend to think through the things that they need to do in order to make a more holistic well-being for themselves. So that's going to be important as well. How can we implement certain processes that incorporate a better decision-making process for them so they can succeed in the future? And I've also got some infographics on this. I think it's the 10th PowerPoint. So youth health disparities are a topic on this one. And one of them is low-income youth face significant barriers. That's due to the fact that they can't access a lot of other resources that, somebody with a higher income could access. Minority youth experience systematic discrimination, which is also another barrier. We don't want them to be stigmatized because a lot of the times it's not really something that they can help. They didn't ask to be in that situation. And then rural areas lack necessary resources and services. This is also going to be a pretty big barrier as well. They don't have access to reliable transportation in order to get them to goods and services that they might need in order to get past a lot of the stuff that they're going through. So really kind of implementing some process and change on how to get past that barrier is going to be really important as well. There's this whole stigma that low-income people typically live in a rural area, and they're a lot more engaged in minority populations, and that's something that I feel like we need to break as a society. We need to give more resources to our country. We have so many people that suffer and don't need to, so these are going to be some big barriers. Mental health access remains inadequate, which is still true today. That goes along with health insurance issues. It goes along with so many different factors, and it just does not need to be this way. When we have somebody that needs help, we need to make sure that they have access to that help. And then the evidence-based interventions, mentoring programs foster positive growth. Mental health services enhance learning. It's important to gain the knowledge that we need in order to get past our mental health struggles. If we don't know about it, then how are we going to heal from it in a necessary and proper way? Trauma-informed care supports, resilience building. This kind of goes along with that knowledge. It's important to be knowledgeable and self-aware about that in order to heal from it. A lot of people that go through trauma, they're not aware that it's necessarily trauma until they get older. And creating a safe space for them to kind of grow past that and implement safe coping skills is going to be extremely important. And then after school programs boost youth development. This is going to be really important. A lot of kids need that extra support in order to get past a lot of mental health struggles, as well as just life struggles in general. They need safe adults to be around, and after school programs are going to be really important for that. Just allowing them to be around a safe environment is going to be really, really special to them. Call to action for social workers. We must advocate for policies that support our youth. This is going to be huge. We must create programs addressing local needs, and we're going to need to collaborate with schools for success. Again, children go to school. That's where they are throughout the week most of the time. And it's important that we give them access at school to succeed. And then also we need to mobilize communities to support youth. This is a big problem. I feel like we are slightly getting better about helping our youth. However, there are still so many, disparities and a lot of interventions that need to be made in order to get to where we need to be on this. And lastly, our conclusion is going to be the fact that early intervention is extremely critical for youth development. The earlier that we can intervene, the better their progress typically is. Prevention reduces long-term negative outcomes for youth. It's just the longer you wait, the harder it is to typically recover from. Say if somebody goes through trauma at an early age, it's better to address it then than to kind of let that trauma bake and marinate in your body, because if we all know trauma lives in the body, it's important to implement boundaries, coping skills, knowledge, early intervention processes in order to allow that person the means to heal from it. It's not fair to them to have to sit in it and not have the proper resources to heal. It's important as well that we address mental health, education, and socioeconomic barriers. This is a huge problem that has kind of made it hard for us to implement these proper interventions in order to help our youth. Another conclusion, by 2035, disparities in youth access reduce. This is a major issue, and we need to make sure that that does not happen. As social workers, it's our job and our duties to advocate for not only people, but for our youth in general, for all ages, but youth especially, because, I mean, they're the people of our next generation, and it's important that they feel loved and safe, and they feel healthy, and they have the proper tools in order to succeed in their life. Success means healthier, supported youth populations nationwide. This is true. That's going to be extremely important, as well as exploring resources to support youth development initiatives. Again, having access to the proper resources can be a barrier for some people, so kind of intervening on what that looks like in order to make that happen is going to be also pretty important. Social workers are crucial in shaping futures. Like I said, as social workers, it is our duty and our responsibility to advocate for these people that may not be able to advocate for themselves. Extremely important. That was the final conclusion. And then the last two slides are just some of the resources that we used, you know, the CDC prevention, youth mental health, National Institute of Mental Health, as well as National Academies of Sciences, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And then the last slide is just all of the references continued that we used in order to make this PowerPoint. Again, I'm sorry this is late. Chad and Alex were absolutely wonderful. Sorry for the delay. Those are the slides that I was assigned to do. So thank you for listening, and thank you for letting me kind of turn this in a little delayed. Have a great day.